Thank you, Carolyn.
I'll second.
Second. Thank you, Mia Brown. Is everyone up to date? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. The next is reports. Councillor Mackay.
Mr. Chair, I'm not a member of the committee, but I am a councillor. Am I allowed to ask a question of the minutes just passed?
Only as to whether they are correct or not. Right. We have received the latest variance report to the end of October 2020.
37 at quite low rates. Should we be, which 37 is 17 years away, should we be taking term debt and fixing it for 17 years at the percentages that are in the table, because they seem very low?
Just we can have a look at that. I'll need to confirm that that 37 figure is actually not a typo from Bancorp, but yeah, we look at the risk and the duration of those loans, and yes, you could move them all out, but rates could come down even further. So at the moment, there seems to be little likelihood that they're going to increase. But if we thought they were going to increase, then we'd lock in longer ones. But we'll have a talk to our advisors about that.
Carolyn?
But by the time you think they're going to increase, everyone else will be thinking they're increasing. The banks will have increased them. You need to be ahead of the game, so to speak. They seem very historically low rates, if they are correct in there, which I couldn't see why they couldn't be.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we'll certainly look at that. But if you'd asked me the same question a year ago and said that the rates were historically low and we could fix them out to whatever that year was, and we had, that would have been quite a cost because they came down even more. Now I know that the bottom side now is the difference between borrowing at 1 or 1.5 and nil. Is a lot less, so we'll have a look at that.
Yeah, I didn't ask the question a year ago for obvious reasons. But does our policy allow us to go out to, say, 2037 or 2040 even, and fixing the rates?
I'm pretty sure it's silent on a maximum term, but we'll have a look at that.
Yeah.
Councillor Cameron?
Thank you. I've also got a remark to make on the Bancorp report. Given that Grant Robinson wrote to the Reserve Bank and said, you know, consider other things with regards to managing the monetary policy, and that there's 100% certainty, according to this report, that we're going to be at an OCR rate of 0% by May and perhaps negative 0.25 by October. Has Ms Mahuta, the Minister of Local Government, given any guideline or guidance to local authorities as to how to manage their assets or their capital, you know, their cash, or what is the best? Has there been any approach from that?
Mr. Chairman, no. The answer is no, not on how much borrowing or cash we should have.
And not on how to manage that with because there'd be a lot of territorial authorities around New Zealand that'll have the same situation. Like we've got, what are we getting off our term deposits? 56,000, did I hear?
We're getting in the previous year we had, from memory in the annual report, 200 and something thousand of interest. And this year, when we prepare the LTP, we'll be estimating effectively nil of interest earned. So,
Perhaps I could just add to that through you, Mr. Chairman. Traditionally, the Minister of Local Government wouldn't be telling councils how to manage their financial affairs. She would be expecting, in this case, that council is getting appropriate advice, has strong policy, and that officers are adhering to those policies. But it would be most unusual for a Minister of Local Government to direct councils as to how they should be doing something like this.
Thank you, Hamish. I take your point, but I'm not asking her. I assume that there would be, Local Government New Zealand would have some sort of conversation, and Ms Mahuta isn't currently our ahead of that, isn't she? So then my point is there any,
No,
no,
no, this is for council to manage, and the only expectation from Wellington would be that we have policies, get appropriate advice, and then adhere to that advice.
because there will be a big hole when it proves that happens.
Right, a couple of questions, if I may. Looking at our summary on page 3, which is really the guts of this financial report, our fees and charges, rather than being at roughly 1/3, because we're now 1/3 of the way through the financial year, are sitting at 29%. Is that timing differences due to post-COVID, repercussions?
Mr. Chairman, it's quite hard to answer that. There is, for example, our building area is going really well at the moment, and so their fees are coming up to what the budget should be compared with their last year. EA Networks is probably slightly behind still on their budget, but most areas are tracking pretty well now to the budget. So I wouldn't expect there to be too much if it carries on, the economy carries on the way it is at the moment. I wouldn't expect too much variance in our fees and charges.
And the payments to staff and suppliers is only at 26%, which is 7% basically behind. Again, is that timing?
It'll be partly timing. It'll depend on how many fortnights that ended up being in the period. So we might be one fortnight out, and that's probably the primary reason for it. And also, remember, we will probably have reversed the accrual for annual leave, but not put a new one in. But that's probably it. More timing.
And just looking at the finance income, we're actually -7%. Is that a reversal still yet to be done?
We will have reversed probably the interest accrual, but there'll be a timing of interest coming in. We will not meet the finance income budget, so that'll have to change to a permanent variance because simply the interest rates are so low. We're not going to get what we had in the annual plan, and we didn't actually estimate very much in the annual plan either, but we're simply not going to get there.
Right. And I note that finance costs are up because of that's the extra borrowing to finance the capital developments. Okay, are there any other questions that anyone might have? Would someone like to move a resolution that we receive the report? Councillor Cameron.
I'll move that resolution.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor McMillan. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right, Treasury report. Any questions for a start? Just one comment that I would make. Things are changing fast at the moment, and this is to the end of September this year, which is nearly 2 months ago. I just wonder whether these reports shouldn't be circulated as soon as received, although under the new meeting structure, I guess they will be circulated to all councillors just prior to the next fortnightly meeting. Okay, someone like to move that the report be received? Thank you, Councillor Rawlinson.
Can I make a comment too?
Yep.
Just on page 15, the final page of that Bancorp report, I thought it was the cost of funds, I thought was showing a great graph of going from 6% down to under 2.5%, which is no doubt a result of Paul's moving funds around. So happy to move it.
Mr. Chairman, what's driving that down is our increased borrowing. Because the more we borrow at the moment, the lower that cost of funds is coming down, because we had some loans that were sitting up here. We're now borrowing down here. The more we borrow, the more that average is coming down. So it's actually being driven down by our borrowing program rather than anything else. So we've borrowed, for example, since this report was written, we've borrowed another 15 million. That will have driven it down even further. And when we borrow more, The more you borrow, the more we're going to save.
You're not tempting us.
It's what you call averaging down.
Yes.
Councillor Wilson.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I'm in favour. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, that is the last of the business with the public presence. Would someone like to move that the committee now go into committee? Public excluded. Thank you, Mayor Brown. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Wilson.